This episode of Harvey Brownstone Interviews is brought to you by the Harvey Brownstone Talk Show Blend Coffee, available at hollywoodblends.com. Everyone's saying it's the best coffee they've ever tasted. Why not give it a try and see for yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's guest is an actor, writer, producer, and entrepreneur whose very first movie, The Blue Lagoon, made him a global sensation and earned him a Golden Globe Award nomination for Best New Male Star of the Year, as well as a nomination for a Young Artist Award for Best Young Actor in a Major Motion Picture. He's appeared in many other movies, including The Pirate Movie, A Night in Heaven, Listen to Me, Die Watching, It's My Party, Lima, Breaking the Silence, True Legends of the West, The Color of Water, Stained Glass Windows, Lake of Fire, Attraction to Paris, and many more. And on television, he played Peter Richards, the camp counselor who had a torrid affair with Sue Ellen Ewing in season 7 of the blockbuster TV series Dallas. He's appeared in many other TV shows, including Hotel, Red Shoe Diaries, Suddenly Susan, CSI, and The 11th, to name a few. And he's also appeared in numerous TV movies, including Secret Weapons, Guns of Honor, Dead Man's Island, Angel Flight Down, Caved In, Blue Lagoon, The Awakening, Ladies of the 80s, A Divas Christmas, and many more. I'm delighted to welcome Christopher Atkins to our show. Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Wow, that guy's got a lot of shows under his belt.
He sure does. How does it feel?
Well, you reading them off like that, it's pretty impressive. It's amazing looking back over the career like you just did.
It sure is. Now, you were selected out of 4,000 young actors who auditioned to play Richard in The Blue Lagoon, even though you had no professional acting experience. And I read that when you were first told you got the part, you said no. Is that right?
That's a true story. Yep.
Well, who talked you into saying yes?
Well, it was Vic Ramos, who was the casting director in New York City. And when I said no, it was because I had no idea anything about movies. I only auditioned. Well, I auditioned because I thought would be cool. And when it came out, I could tell all my friends, oh, I went in and I auditioned for that movie. Never in a million years did I ever think I was going to get this movie. So when it did happen, actually, I don't know if you saw my bio, but my whole life was baseball. It's all I ever wanted to do was play baseball. So I was playing softball for the Ford Modeling Agency at the time, and I was late for a game and had to catch a train. So I said, no, I don't know anything about movies or anything like that. Thank you very much, but I got to get to a game. And then they were like, no, you don't understand. You got the movie. I said, yeah, but it's like a $4 million movie, and there's two of us in this movie. I don't want $2 million on my back. I don't know what's going on. And then he said, look, they wouldn't have cast you if they didn't think you could do it. So then I was 18. I had this long conversation with my mom about this whole thing. I was heading off to college at Tennessee University in Ohio, and we talked about it and talked about everything and decided that she said, look, if you don't like it and it's nothing that's exciting to you, you don't ever have to do it again. So I just jumped in, took the chance, and went and saw what the movie business was all about. And of course, it changed my whole life.
So going into your very first movie, Chris, what scared you the most?
Well, probably not even knowing what a camera looked like. I had no idea. I had just done a commercial for Blue Jeans, and so that was exciting to me because I was going to be on TV when you're in the middle of that. So that was kind of fun and exciting. But I never imagined in a million years that I was now going to be swept off and go make a movie. And that was pretty much what scared, because I had no training. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what a camera looked like. I didn't know what a mark was. I had no idea about any of that. So that was the most daunting.
Did the director, Randall Kleiser, who's been on our show, did he help you? Did he teach you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Randall and I are still really, really good friends. And as you know, the fires are burning and it was right down at the bottom of his house. So we were all very worried about it. But no, he was the best. He was just phenomenal. And he just was helped me understand everything and do everything. And the interesting thing about that movie is no movie was ever made like that, and no movie will ever be made like that ever again. I mean, we literally were on a deserted island in the Fiji Islands, and there was nothing there. We all lived in tents for 4.5 months. So it was literally camping on this island. They did build a building on the island for the editors to be editing and for Brooke and Nestor to live in. But basically, everybody else was literally living in tents. It was a tent city. So that was pretty interesting and exciting. And I love the outdoors and I love camping and doing all that. So it was really kind of exciting for me to be able to do that. But yeah, it was a whole different experience.
Did Randall ever tell you what it was about you specifically that got you the part over everybody else who auditioned?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that was important was the fact that at 16, I had gotten my scuba license. So I was very familiar with the water and I was very familiar with scuba diving and being under the water. And that was important to him because there was a lot of water scenes. And this character needed to be very comfortable in the water and on the land in that respect, as far as the whole nature thing goes, and not and as you can see, there's a lot of people, or maybe as you know, there's a lot of people who say, "Oh, I can ride a motorcycle," because they want to be in the show, and then they crash the things because they have no clue. So that was important, I know, for him to do it. But other than that, I guess I just did whatever he was looking for.
Well, Chris, if you had not gotten the part in the Blue Lagoon, do you think you still would have gone into acting or would you have gone into sports medicine?
Oh, I definitely would have gone into sports medicine. Absolutely. I mean, because acting was nothing I ever even thought about in my entire life. I had no idea about it. It wasn't anything I was chasing or really even that interested in. I mean, I can't say that because in high school I did do a play and two plays in high school. So I mean, I did enjoy doing something like that and took a jump in doing that. But other than that, no, my whole family are doctors in medicines. My sister's a PhD in cellular biology at Yale University, and my brother's an emergency room doctor specializing in ultrasound emergency medicine in New York. Actually, he's one of those concierge doctors now who or handle all the billionaires.
Well, I've heard you say in many interviews over the years that the Blue Lagoon was both a blessing and a curse for you. And it got me thinking that over the years, you're constantly being asked about the nudity in the movie, which kind of surprises me because I didn't think the nudity was that big a deal. Was it that big a deal for you at the time?
Well, I mean, they're asking you to be butt naked on screen. I mean, in front of other people and things like that. At 18 years old, I mean, I take a shower. That was about it, right? So all of a sudden, having to do that was, I mean, it's a big deal, but it's in that environment, the way that was set up. The Australians were the ones that were the crew on the island. And in Australia at that time, everything was in Europe were all topless beaches. It was not a big deal. So in that environment, it everybody was basically they're all young Australians running around naked, and it became for me it wasn't it became not a big deal for me. It was actually very freeing and it was nice. And I trusted Randall and I trusted what was going on, and there was no gratuitous anything in the film. So I just let myself go and I just rolled the dice and let life take its course. And it was okay at the end for sure.
So, why do you sometimes say that being in that movie was a blessing and a curse?
It was such a big movie. It was such a massive hit all over the world. I literally, Harvey, I couldn't go anywhere without my hair pulled and my shirt ripped and bodyguards and everything. It was huge. It was that big. But I was known for curly hair, and if you saw a whole bunch of shows after Blue Lagoon, they kept wanting to curl my hair. The one thing that I loved about it, and I would love to do again, was that it was a very Romeo Juliet movie. It was a beautiful love story, and I've never really had the opportunity to do something similar like that again, and I would like to do that. But I guess when you're pigeonholed into something, a movie where you're Jungle Boy or whatever, that's how basically you're seen. So it's tough to be taken when you come right out of the gate with something like that. There's not many. If I was an action guy, there's plenty of action movies. If I was a Western guy, there's plenty. But when you're running around in a loincloth, there's not many of those after that. So you kind of that's where it gets pigeonholed a little bit. But it's I mean it, look, I don't know how much really of a curse it was, because it was something that I would never change in a million years. It was just a very, very special, wonderful time in my life.
It certainly was. But as a fan, I always felt when I watched you in those interviews and during all of that heyday that you must have felt in a way a little bit invisible. It was all about your looks. It was all about the body. It was all about that hair and the face. But there's a real person in there who has a real life, who has real feelings, who has real dreams. And there was talent there. It wasn't just the looks. There were 4,000 other people who wanted that role. And I would imagine they were all just as good looking as you. But you had a certain charisma. You had a magnetism. You had likability. There was chemistry between you and Brooke that really worked. And sometimes it must have felt to you like people just weren't seeing any of that. It was just all about the looks.
Well, okay, you're not wrong on that respect. There was obviously a lot of that, yeah. And it is tough because if you're now an actor and this is your career, you want to act. You want to try those different roles. And I was fortunate enough. I think one of the things that was one of my favorite shows was the westerns that I did with Martin Sheen, and we shot those in Africa. And that was a totally different character. And I really liked that. Guns of Honor, it was called. The Rebel Rouser and Trigger Fast. And what was fun about that was I got to wear the long hair. I got to be a whole different character from the Blue Lagoon. The pirate movie, they curled my hair, they put the diaper back on me, and a lot of the different shows, they always wanted the curly hair because that's how I was seen. The director just saw that character, Randall just saw that character as a Greek Adonis, and that's why he always wanted my hair curled. But of course, after that movie, it was always that. So being an actor, that's the craft, that's the art, that's where it's fun for us to play on a spaceship or play a western or play a love story or play a good guy or a bad guy, and that's where as an artist get to dive into different characters. So yeah, it was tough. I didn't get some of the big roles that I wanted or could have gotten for obvious reasons on that respect, but yeah, you read off a lot of things that I've done, so I'm not too disappointed.
And you've done them well. Now, when Blue Lagoon came out, some critics said it was child pornography because Brooke was only 14, you were 18. Do you think, Chris, if they were making that movie today with a 14-year-old girl, would they shoot it the same way?
No, you can't make that movie. Not in today's day, you can't. I mean, there were two little kids running naked down a beach who played us younger. I mean, they just, you can't make that movie.
When I saw an interview with Brooke, she said that the director and her own mother were trying to get the two of you to fall in love with each other. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely true. Yep. As a matter of fact, Randall had put a picture of Brooke over when we first got to the island. She hadn't been there yet. She came 2 weeks after I was already there, and they had no place on the island to stay. So I was in a boat offshore and shuttled back and forth to the island. So in my cabin, he had stuck a picture of Brooke over my bunk because it was so important to him that we fell in love or had that connection that you had said earlier. It was really, really important to him. So yeah, absolutely.
Did it work?
Yeah, it did for a little while. Absolutely. I mean, it was very cute. It was very innocent. At 14 and 18, it was a very deep friendship, I guess. I mean, there was nothing heavy or serious going on, but we were the two that were the closest in age on the island. So, yeah, there was definitely that going on, and for sure they wanted us to have those moments and to feel those. And besides, she's a stunningly beautiful girl, so it's hard not to.
And a really nice person. I know you've kept in touch with her over the years. You appeared in season 3 of Suddenly Susan in an episode called Sometimes You Feel Like a Nut. You played a journalist named Tony that Susan has a crush on. What was it like working with her again?
It was pretty funny. Yeah, it was pretty funny. It was very cool. No, I was very flattered. I was very excited to be on the show. I was a nervous wreck, but it was fun to be back with her again. And I can't tell you, it's literally every month since Blue Lagoon that somebody has come to me said, I have a film that I'd love you and Brooke to do. I can't tell you constantly. And it would be fun, I think, sometime, some way to be able to hook up and do it again. I don't know if that fan base would ever really remember or care, but I just thought that would be kind of fun for something. But that was exciting for me. Yeah, that was a good time.
In 2012, you appeared in the TV movie remake of the Blue Lagoon called Blue Lagoon: The Awakening. You played Mr. Christensen, a school teacher. What did you think of that movie?
Well, it was very flattering that they wanted to make it, and it was kind of funny that I was the guy that got the two lost on in the first place. And so I thought that was kind of fun and a nice twist. It was the same thing almost as the ladies of the 80s, where I played Linda Gray's husband and they named me Peter, which was sort of a funny spin on Dallas, where if those fans, if they get it, they will see, oh, look what they did. That's funny. And it was done purposely that way. So that's the fun part about movie making. As a matter of fact, another trivia, the owner of the island of Blue Lagoon, there's a scene in the very beginning of the Blue Lagoon where the boat catches on fire and everybody's trying to get off the ship, and the captain's in the lifeboat and he's about to go pull a rope and drop down in the water, and there's this guy with a goatee and he has a striped shirt on, the sailor shirt, and he's trying to get in the boat, and the captain says, no, 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 there's no more room. Well, that was the owner of the island, and they left him on the burning boat purposely because he was a pain in the ass. So
That's
yeah, so
really
that's
cool.
fun. So if you ever watch the movie, you can watch that. It's just funny little trivia stuff. But yeah, that was exactly like that. Yep.
Now I'm going to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
What did you think of the 1991 sequel, Return to the Blue Lagoon? I think it starred Mila Jovovich and Brian Krause.
Brian, yeah, Brian's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy. I like them. You know what? I never saw the movie, so I can't really comment on it. But I know it didn't do very well, but it's once again it's very flattering that the best form of flattery is obviously making more of them. So.
But the proof that you were so good is that none of these remakes ever succeed. They cannot get lightning to strike twice in the same place.
Yeah, not in this film, yeah.
In 2015, almost 35 years after making The Blue Lagoon, you and Randall Kleiser, the director, went back to Fiji, to Turtle Island, to see the place where you made the movie. Chris, did you get any sense of closure from going back there?
That was one of the biggest moments next to making that movie and having kids, I think, in my life, that stepping back on that island after all those years and what that movie had done to my life, and how much that movie had impacted me being there in that tent for 4.5 months. Yes, it was quite a big moment. I was very emotional about it, and it was really special, and they threw a huge event on the island for us. So yeah, it was quite special, I have to admit.
I'm glad you had that opportunity. Now, we had talked earlier about the movie coming out, you becoming more famous than you could ever have imagined. You become a heartthrob, a sex symbol. people seem to only care about what you look like. You're trying to establish yourself as an actor beyond just somebody with the looks. But then in 1982, you did a nude photo shoot for Playgirl magazine. Looking back, do you think that was a good career move if you were looking to break away from the sex symbol image?
Hell yeah, that was a good move. Are you kidding? You live once. What the heck? Why not? This whole business is about shock and awe and doing something out of the box and whatever else. And at that point in time, it was one of those, oh my gosh, he's too young, all of this sort of stuff to do some. It was fun. It was great. And my good friend Greg Gorman shot it. And he's still one of my dearest best friends. And he's one of the top photographers in the world. Are you kidding? It's another adventure in the life of Chris Atkins. It was no big deal.
You know, one of the things I really admired about you then and now is that you knew, even back then, even at that age, that you were a sex symbol, not only for all those teenage girls out there, but also for gay guys. And you were okay with it. You were secure enough about yourself to be okay with it.
For sure. Absolutely. And all of my dear friends are gay too. But what was one of the interesting, and you might have read this because I've said this many times before, because what's fascinating to me is I did an interview. They asked me, they said, "Do you know why you're such a huge gay icon?" And I said, "Well, besides the obvious, is there any other reason?" And they said, "Yeah, because in 1980, when the movie came out, it was male nudity. And it was always female nudity basically before. And here comes a young man, and it's male nudity. And I can't tell you how many times I was in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and I did a TV show there, and the two producers, a male and a female, came up to me, and the male came up to me and said, "I knew I was gay when I watched your film." And the female came up to me and said, "I knew I wasn't gay when I watched your film." And it was fascinating because I've had a lot of that throughout my life. And so in the interview, what he had said was that in 1980, at that time in history, was when a lot of coming out was just starting. So here comes this movie, here comes this movement of coming out where police and mayors and people like that, established people, were starting to be able to find their voice. And I just became sort of the poster boy in that history of time for that movement. So it was very flattering in that respect.
Well, you deserve a lot of credit for that. You handled it with a lot of class and dignity. And whether you know it or not, you were actually validating gay people who were very marginalized at that time. The fact that you took it and didn't see it as an insult. And I want to publicly commend you for that.
Oh, well, thank you.
So, Chris, when you look back at your life, when you were a young man in your early 20s, do you feel you got the emotional support you needed from your management team, from your family, to be able to cope with the level of fame that you had to deal with?
Oh, absolutely. If it wasn't for my family, I don't think it was so dramatic. One day so for instance, I did the movie. I didn't get to go to college because I had to defer college. I come back, all my friends, everybody's gone to college, and I'm all by myself. It was this fantasy of or dream of what just happened to me. Everybody's gone, and now I'm by myself, and no one's talking to me. There's no industry coming to me. Because it was go 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 for 4.5 months, and you're being constantly prepped and talked to, and then now it's stopped. It was such a bizarre time of in during that time, and then it slowly started coming around. So during that time, I was lost. I didn't know whether to go get a job or try to. I didn't know what to do. I just knew that I think I just did this movie, and now I got to wait to find out what's happening. So it was months before all of a sudden they started Columbia Pictures called me, and the publicity machine was starting, and then I needed to do this looping, and I had no idea what that was, and things were starting to pick up. Then it took off. And then when it took off, I'll never forget, Randall called me up one day and he said, "Hey, I want to go down to the Cinerama Dome and see what the lines look like. Do you want to go?" And I said, yeah, I'll go. So he picked me up and we went in this limo and we showed up at the Cinerama Dome on Hollywood Boulevard. And the line was a Star Wars line. And there were these giant cardboard cutouts of Brooke and I that were 20 feet tall in front of the holding each other in the jungle, that iconic photo. And the line went all the way around the building and down the block, and it was unbelievable. And it was sort of at that moment that things just started happening. So yes, without the family and the friends, and I got to tell you, you probably know this too, is that when I was 16, I used to teach sailing here in New York, in Rye, New York. And I used to, out of that measly little paycheck, I used to put $1 away for someday when I had kids. And I don't know why that is, but I just love kids. And I couldn't wait to have my own kids. And when I did, it was awesome because they were like for my own personal entertainment. And I just had a blast with my kids. But having children, being married, having a family really took the front seat over the career and everything else. And I kind of dropped off because of it, because I think I wanted to spend more time being a father than chasing being a movie star. So, I mean, that was a little bit of the downfall for me as far as the big parts and everything else go. But I wouldn't change that either. I mean, I've got two of the greatest kids, and I'm so proud of them, because the next level of life is that I didn't realize is watching your children become parents. So it's one of those, what did I do right and what did I do wrong? And are they going to be loving, hands-on, or are they going to be militant, my way, whatever? And I got to say that they're both really wonderful, wonderful parents who just are really good with their kids.
Well, you have your priorities screwed on correctly. And that's saying a lot for someone who's been through what you have in the industry. You'll notice in my question, I asked you whether you had support from your family and management team. And the reason I mentioned that is because I know that when you were 24 years old, you had a manager who stole all your money. And I believe he also ripped off Tom Cruise and Donna Mills, correct?
Yeah, Randall, Donna, Randall. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he was a business manager and he was handling all the money, and he left me with $200 and one kid and one on the way, and that kind of, I think, was the stepping stones to the marriage eventually ending, because it was always a struggle. I had to do things that I didn't want to do as far as movies and stuff to keep groceries going and things like that. Yeah, that was tough. That was a tough time, but you know, it's life.
I've heard so many stories over the years of entertainers being ripped off by their managers, their agents. How are you supposed to protect yourself financially in this industry?
Listen, the bottom line is, if they want to do something, anybody, they'll always find a way. I mean, you open the newspaper and you'll see how the new credit card scams or this, there's always a way. And it's tough. The only thing you can do is I believe is be able to handle it myself. And that's what I ended up doing. My wife and I, we ended up with what we had, doing it ourselves.
Well, there's a special place in hell reserved for people who exploit other people. And I can tell you that as a retired criminal court judge, it's absolutely true. Now, Chris,
thank you.
In 1983, you were cast in the lead role in the movie Footloose, but you lost the role because the producers were worried that you were partying too much, or they thought you might party too much. So Kevin Bacon got the role. Chris, when something like that happens to you and you realize you've missed an opportunity that might never happen again, was there a process that you had to go through to forgive yourself so you don't keep beating yourself up over it?
Well, yeah, get sober. That's the number one thing. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a shame because I literally had that part. And then I was heading to Palm Springs. I had a house out there and they said, oh, they need to see you. And I said, I can't. I've been partying and whatever. And I went in and just blew it. And you know, I don't know what to say, but except for there's reasons for everything. And I think at that point in time, when my son was one, I said enough is enough, and I got sober, and I've been sober ever since. So it's been
So maybe
38
that
years.
had to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, there's reasons for everything. It was one of those. I was never much of a huge partier, but when I got going in the business, or back in the '80s at that day, there's sayings where you either went through rehab or you died during the '80s because it was so out there. So anyway, I was more of a big drinker more than anything else, and that's I don't know if that was just the New York thing. And the crazy part about it is the rest of my family aren't, so I was the only one that ended up doing that. But yeah, it changed my whole life, and I'm super super grateful. I'm so much happier, and I was a sober dad throughout my kids' upbringing, and man, I wouldn't change that for the world. So yeah, I lost probably what would have skyrocketed my career, and for that, yeah, there's always a little bit of a disappointment. But look, it skyrocketed Kevin Bacon. He's had a wonderful, wonderful career. Listen, I had a wonderful family life. So what can I say?
Well, everything happens for a reason. Now, in 1983, you got to co-star with the wonderful Leslie Ann Warren, who's become a very dear friend of mine. She was on our show 3 years ago. The movie was A Night in Heaven. What was she like to work with?
She was fun. She was fun. It was really an interesting movie because John Avildsen directed it and he won the Academy Award for Rocky. And this was a relationship piece. And if you see what John was best at, he was best at come from behind movies, right? He was best at the Power of One and the Karate Kid and those kind of things and Rocky. He wasn't really known for a relationship piece, and this was a relationship piece. Originally, I starred in the movie, and Leslie Ann co-starred in the movie at that time. But Leslie Ann was nominated for an Academy freaking award while we were filming. The movie originally, I was not a bad guy. And during the filming of the movie, the script kept getting changed. And to the point where my manager was saying, hey, listen, there's no movies where the star of the movie is the bad guy. You can't do this. Anyway, that's what happened on that for that. But she was great. And every time I see her, I always give her a big hug and a big kiss and say, hey, you want to have sex? Because we had such a hardcore sex scene in that movie, and it was fun. She's a really good sport. She was a good sport.
Yeah, she's a really classy person.
Yeah.
And of course, I have to ask you about the pirate movie co-starring Christy McNichol. Your song from that movie, How Can I Live Without Her, went to number 71 on the Billboard Hot 100. Are you surprised that the pirate movie has become such a popular cult classic? It's really huge.
Yeah, completely surprised. I mean, more than you could possibly imagine surprised. I actually have a gold album from that song. I went gold in Australia, so that's kind of cool. And I always tease my kids. I said, when I sing Happy Birthday, I go, hey, I have a gold album. And they're like, Dad, Dad. But
It was
yeah,
a great song and you sang it really well.
well, thank you, Harvey. Thank you. But thank God for machines that can make a dog sing. So as far as that movie goes, I was at the American Film Market. I'm walking around the American Film Market, and this group of people came up to me and they went, "Oh, hey, you were in that you were in," and I go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, Blue Lagoon." No, with that pirate movie, and I went, "You you saw that? Because it didn't do very well at the box office, didn't do well at all. But like you said, it became this massive cult picture to the point where over COVID, I still keep in touch with Christy. I just adore her. I love her. She's just a great person. And over COVID, people were asking for autographs, and she'd sign and then send them to me, and then I'd sign. And so we were literally, and she's really good that way too. There's a lot of people that you can't get the two stars of a movie to get an autographed picture if you're a collector or stuff. It's very tough. Like for instance, Brooke doesn't do that, but Christy, she's more than happy to sign a picture of somebody, send it to me, and I'll sign it, and you get both signatures, and it's really great. But yeah, I'm shocked at how big that movie was. Shocked. I do Cameo, that Cameo where it's cameo.com, and I go and say happy birthday or whatever. And 90% of it is, oh, can you sing a song from the pirate movie? And I'm like, oh, really? So yeah, it's a pleasant surprise, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Now, we mentioned Randall Kleiser. I have to say that one of the most important, most poignant movies of the 90s was a movie he directed, It's My Party. It's about a man dying of AIDS. You were in that film, Chris. Can you share any memories of making that movie?
Yeah, it was sort of based on this guy Roger Jan's, my character, I should say, not the movie. And Roger was the photographer on Blue Lagoon, and he ended up passing away from AIDS. And so I said, of course, I would love to portray or play a character in the film for you and be able to do that. One of the most interesting aspects of that film was his Randall's brother Jeff is a special effects guy, and so they needed me to become very gaunt from the disease, and so they did all of this makeup for shading and stuff to make it look gaunt. But what they did was they took me to a place to have my face scanned with a computer. So that was the first time way back then that computers were doing things like that to be able to completely alter me. I mean, they sunk my cheeks in, they sunk my eye sockets back, all of that just with the computer. But the funniest part was driving from the set to the computer place on the freeway where I had this like death makeup on and people were staring at me out the window, and I would say I said to the driver, I go, oh, check this person, they're staring at me, watch this. So I lean over and I go like this, and the people are all freaking out like I'm about to die any second. It was pretty classic, but it was a very sensitive movie, and we all knew Harry, who was Randall's partner at the time, who was passing away, and so of course we all wanted to jump in, and Olivia and all of that, and help out with making that movie. Yeah, it was a very tough movie.
Yeah, for those of us who lived through the AIDS epidemic, that was a very tough movie and also very validating. But the same year, 1996, you made a really great TV movie called Dead Man's Island with Barbara Eden, William Shatner, Roddy McDowall, Morgan Fairchild, Tracy Lords, Olivia Hussey. I mean, what a cast. What was that experience like?
That was fun. That was a fun film to everybody was so great. But I'll tell you an interesting story. So we were shooting one day out at this pool in Pasadena. It was a mansion out there in Pasadena, and the pool had these columns around it, these Roman like columns around the pool. It was very fancy and all this. And these kids who lived there were throwing a football back and forth. I said, "Oh, let me throw," because that's what I used to do. So I'm having a catch, and Shatner comes up and he goes, "Hey, let me throw one." I said, "Oh, okay," and I want to give him the ball, and he tells the kid, he goes, "All right, go out." And the kid's on the other side of the pool, and he's running down the side of the pool, and he's going in and out of these pylons, right? So you go behind it as he's going to the next one, and Shatner drills this kid. I mean, almost lifted him off his feet and threw him against the ivy wall when he came out from behind. And I looked at Shatner. I went, "Damn!" I said, "Wow, you can throw." And he said, "Yeah, I used to play." I was so impressed. I couldn't believe William Shatner just winged that ball like that and took the kid right off his feet. So
Who
yeah,
knew?
that was I didn't know. I had no, he's an actor. You figure that the sports weren't his thing. No, he drilled this kid. It was really, I love that story because I was in awe. Yeah, it was very impressive. But it was a fun movie, and watching William do his acting and everything was just always very fun because he always seemed like he was trying to find his line, and he would be able to just keep talking, and it was brilliant. It was just brilliant how he did it. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, a
Well,
lot of
you've
fun.
worked with some amazing people. You worked with Ernest Borgnine in 2008. Great movie, Chinaman's Chance, America's Other Slaves. Did you get to know him at all?
Yeah, briefly. I got to know him briefly, but I loved him in McHale's Navy when I was younger. Oh my gosh, that was one of my favorites with my grandpa, and we used to watch that show constantly. So I was a huge fan of his. Yeah, yeah, that was fun. Yeah, and you're right. I've been very blessed with the people that I've had the chance to work with.
Oh my God, about 10 years ago, you co starred with Shirley Jones, Sally Struthers, Lee Merriweather in a very entertaining movie called Waiting in the Wings, the musical. You played a priest, I think.
Yeah,
Did you have a good time making that one?
yeah. Well, those are all, I mean, huge icons of television and movies, and to be able to say that I actually worked. I mean, I was so enamored. I was getting their autographs, having them sign the script. No, I mean, I watched all those TV shows as a kid, and here I get a chance to work with these people, and you know, it we all get older, as you know, and so life's short, and take every opportunity, and they certainly can. And so being able to work with people like that I grew up with was just very, very special.
Now, you have the distinction of being the only actor who has played both Linda Gray's lover and husband. How does that feel?
So I was her, yes, I was chasing Linda Gray and I got her. And then in the Ladies of the 80s, I played her husband. And that's what was so fascinating was we did that purposely, or the producers did that purposely for the fans of Dallas that remember that they get to say, "Oh, she did hook up with him and they're married."
Our show has a very unique connection to that movie, Ladies of the 80s. We've had the writer, Stan Zimmerman, on the show. We've had Lonnie Anderson, Morgan Fairchild, Linda Gray, and
Ah,
Patrika Darbo on the show. Now we've had you on the show. Makes
ah.
me very, very happy.
Yeah, they're great. I see Linda all the time and I just adore her. She's a dear, dear, dear friend, and Charlene for that matter, too. Yeah.
Now, in 2009, you appeared in a reality TV show called Confessions of a Teen Idol, co starring Scott Baio, Jeremy Jackson, David Chokachi, Adrian Zmed, who recently appeared on the show. Adrian said that looking back, he didn't think it was a good idea to do that show. Do you agree with him?
Probably, yeah. Yeah. I was, yeah, it was kind of interesting because they kept trying to get us to, I don't know if he said the same thing, but they kept trying to get us to battle each other in some way or another. And one of the producers came up and said, "Why is it that nobody?" I said, "Because we all know what's going on, and that's not what we're about. We're not normal people looking to be on TV. We've our whole lives have been on TV, so it's a whole different because those reality shows, it's all about the drama, and they're trying to get drama out of us, but that's what we've always done is portray drama. So it's it's the opposite. And but a dear friend of mine one of the producers of VH1 convinced me that it was a great idea, that it would be good for me. I get to get out there and show whatever at that time, and with these guys. And Scott's a good friend. I just love Bayo, and I said, all right, well, I'll do it, but I'm not living in this thing, and I'm not. And I would drive home. They'd be chasing me, going, "No, you can't leave. You got to live here." I said, "I'm not living here. I'm going home to my wife and kids." Yeah. And one of the things that really upset me more than anything in that show was they they had this acting coach class, and he was great. I love him, but I had just come back from my sister's wedding. There was a thing, so I had to leave the show, and then I came back, and I came back in the middle of this, and everybody had already done a couple of these things, and I had said, no, 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 I don't want to do it because I'm too far behind everybody else and the whole thing. I'll just try to keep me. Anyway, long story short, what ended up happening is it came up, and I said, you know what? In my head, no, this is important. I'm going to do it. So I got up there and read this monologue or whatever and did what he said and the whole thing and killed it. It was great. And the producers even came, or the director came out and said everybody in the booth really thought that was phenomenal. They gave all of the accolades to one of the other guys when it showed. So here was my big moment that I could show that, hey, listen, I could do this. It was very emotional. It worked really well, and here I'm actually doing a really good take on acting right now. And all of the accolades and the whatever else, they all took that portion and gave it to him. So it didn't even get seen. And I said, so what's the point of being here? I thought that you said this was going to be good. And here I had this thing, and you all came and said, what a great deal. And this was fantastic. Everybody was talking about it and the whole deal. And you gave all of that to, when the show got edited, to somebody else. I don't understand how is this good? So yeah, I kind of agree. I don't think it was the greatest thing.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really realistic about a reality show. That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, well, I think the idea was a good idea. That I just think that they weren't expecting it to go the way that it did, because the normal, like I said, of a reality show would go one way, and we were already lived that in our lives, so that wasn't what they were expecting. They wanted us to go at each other like the reality shows do, but nobody was doing that.
Yeah, that's
We
exactly
always
what Adrian said. You know, when you look at your career, you look at the ups and downs, you look at the roller coaster that you've had to endure. If you could go back and talk to that young 18-year-old Christopher Atkins who is making his first movie, he's about to become a global superstar, what would you say to him?
dig it. Just dig it. Just roll with life. I mean, I found in my life that, like we had said before, things are just meant for a reason. And I, I, when you read all those things out, I thought to myself, wow, I've been pretty blessed. I have done over 100 different TV and movies, and I've had the opportunity to be sober and be a dad that I've always wanted to be. I
Well, I
mean,
think you're also neglecting to remember that you're also very beloved. You have a huge fan base. People really, really like you. You're well liked in the industry. You made a difference in the world. You brought a lot of joy
uh,
to people.
wow, that's very sweet. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, I would rather do that than be an asshole. So I think that's the way it goes. But
Well, I only have one more question for you, Chris, and it's
yes,
this.
sir.
I heard you say in an interview a few years ago that your mantra is he with the most stories wins. So, Chris, when you look back at your life, your career, you certainly have a lot of stories to tell. But am I right that the story that you're most proud of is that you were and are a great family man?
Yeah, I truly believe that that was the greatest gift in my life, was being able to to have a family and experience that in my life. And now as a grandpa, it's, for instance, I got a text message from my son the other day, and it said, "I hate you so much." And I texted my daughter, and I said, "Oh, it looks like Baron, my grandson, my oldest grandson, got his fart spray I sent him."
That's the gift that keeps on
So,
giving. That really is
yeah.
that you've got these kids, the grandchildren. Have you got any upcoming projects that you want to mention?
Well, I don't know if you've seen in the interviews what the last box that I'm ticking in this business, and I've done just about everything. Two things I'd like to do. One is I'd like to do a nice love story again, but the other one is I want to make my own film. So I haven't done that yet. I've done everybody else's for 40 years, and I've written pictures that have been produced and made, but it's my turn. So that's my last box, and that's what I'm concentrating on now, and we're getting pretty close. So I'm excited about that.
When that movie comes out, will you please come back to our show to promote it?
Absolutely. I just adore you, and I just thought this interview was wonderful, and you're a terrific, terrific host. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. It means the world to me. Thank you for taking the time to appear on our show. I loved every
Absolutely.
minute of our time together.
Well, thank you. Me too. I really appreciate it.
Our guest has been the wonderful Christopher Atkins. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time. Thank you to my producer, Steve Silver, my managers, Rick Marcelli and Robin Bragg Marcelli at the Marcelli Company in Hollywood, my director of programming, Robert Monaghan, my PR directors, Eileen Shapiro and Jimmy Starr, and my entire team at the XPTV1 network in the UK.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.